Did Heyman not? No, I mean, he had a contract with ECW also. Did Paulie not try to enforce it or try to get him to honor it, or did he just?
The contracts Paul had on us were so flimsy. I mean, some were. I remember Paul having some contracts actually written on napkins. Some of. I mean, it was pretty. I mean, in a court of law, some of that stuff was laughable. So I don't know.
Literally a napkin.
Literally, yeah. I mean, so it's happened.
You were under a contract, I assume not on a napkin.
I was on a contract, not under a napkin, but I still. Well, we'll get to it later. Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't want.
How many people in the locker room didn't have contracts?
Oh, quite a bit. Quite a bit.
So it was just kind of like the
top guys.
The top guys were locked in.
The guys who thought, who Paul thought could go to WCW or WWE.
Was anybody offered that didn't take it because they thought their opportunity might arise across the street and they'd want to be free to go?
I'm not sure. I never, I mean, most guys were pretty happy with the money they were getting. I mean, Vince was offering between 100 and 150 grand a year. Downside, a lot of us were getting that in ECW.
Right.
The very top guys, and that's where Paul went into the trouble he did, because he was robbing Peter to pay Paul to get people from jumping. Not that he wasn't. The company was earning money. I mean, my wife used to work in the T-shirts. We did a pay-per-view in Chicago. I think it was Anarchy Rules '99. As a heel, I think I sold 190 shirts combined. As a heel, that's a good number.
Yeah.
And I think the actual merch number, just the merch itself, was over 55,000. That's one night. So there was money being made. I just think that he, in order for people to stick with the company, that he was just...
throwing too much of it.
Throwing too much of it to the talent and making bad business decisions with guys like Steve Carroll, who I always thought was a mafioso. Seriously doing loan sharking deals to front him money to put on pay-per-views. Anytime Steve Carroll walked by the merchandise table and asked my wife for the manila envelope filled with God knows how much money, Dreamer, who was my wife's boss, would just say, hey, give Steve Carroll whatever he wants. So just a lot of stuff like that, You just never knew, man. And ECW, there was just the merchandise alone at that time was incredible. Something like this had never been done.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what concessions were made. I know Doug Dillinger accompanied Mike Awesome to the building, and they thought some kind of bad thing was going to happen, which of course it wouldn't have. We liked Mike. Nobody's going to do anything to Mike, and whatever. But the match went off fine, and everything went fine, and that was it.
Does it raise a red flag for anyone that what are you talking to?
Oh, of course.
Like an end game in sight?
I don't
being bought.
You always thought. I mean, I knew Paul talked to Vince. You have to be an idiot not to. I mean, hell, when I got my gig there in the first place, I went to Vince in '97. Kevin and Scott jumped. I said to Vince, I had a meeting with Vince in Stamford. I said, Vince, I had a year or two left. I said, I want out of my contract. I said, you're not doing anything with me. Kevin and Scott offered me a deal down there. I want to go. And he said, absolutely not. He goes, it's not, not that the Aldo character was worth a shit, but I just don't want the perception of another one of my wrestlers going down there. So he let me go work for Paul. So who's to say that that hadn't been going on for many years?
you think Paul was double-crossed to look like a fool? Was it kind of proving a point, like, well, here are these guys coming here, so it's going to be kind of a squash in our house?
Anytime you do anything with Vince, the ECW thing is going to always be buried.
Right.
Vince has an ego. I mean, look, ECW created something that Vince always wanted. And I think ECW, what we did, even before I got there, really was the catalyst for the Attitude Era. And I think everybody can agree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Vince, I think, can't swallow it that, for a minute there, we were the shit. We were the cool thing to watch. And it really bothered him. So he did everything in his power to, undermine what we did. And obviously,
But the exposure is worth it to send Taz out there in Philly.
Yeah, in a way. But who knows? I mean, who knows if that's one of the obligations Paul had to Vince.